Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Miller's Girl 2024 is a tense psychological drama that explores the dangerous boundaries between obsession, power, and desire. The story centers on Jonathan Miller, a frustrated middle-aged teacher and failed writer, whose life spirals out of control when he becomes entangled with Cairo, a brilliant yet enigmatic student. As their relationship grows increasingly inappropriate, Cairo manipulates Jonathan into compromising situations, leading to devastating consequences. The film delves into the consequences of their choices, unraveling themes of seduction.
The scene opens with the low hum of a typical classroom, pencils scratching on paper, students lost in their own little worlds. At the front of the room, Jonathan Miller, a man in his mid-40s, flips through a book, clearly distracted. His face carries the weight of unfulfilled ambitions. A failed writer now teaching, harboring quiet frustration beneath his calm exterior. Across the room, Cairo sits, her presence distinct. She doesn't quite belong with the others. Her beauty is understated, mysterious. There's an intensity in her gaze as she watches Jonathan. Her friend Winnie leans in close, whispering something to her. Cairo doesn't react much, her face a mask of quiet confidence, but she's listening intently. There's something unusual here, a tension you can almost feel in the air. Cairo's watching Jonathan with an intensity that's unnerving, as if she's studying him. Meanwhile, Jonathan, lost in his thoughts, doesn't notice just how closely he's being observed. Jonathan and his wife, Beatrix, sit across from each other at the dinner table. There's a coolness between them, an emotional distance that speaks of years of quiet frustrations and unspoken resentments. The house is dimly lit, the kind of lighting that makes everything feel a little more claustrophobic. Jonathan's voice breaks the silence. He's talking about something small, a student bringing his book to class. His tone is hesitant, as if he's waiting for Beatrix to show interest. But Beatrice's response is sharp, almost dismissive. She barely looks up from her glass of wine. The tension thickens. She cuts him down with sarcasm, and Jonathan's attempt to connect fizzles out. He glares, but it's a frustration that's been simmering for a long time. The phone rings. An interruption neither of them wanted. The moment for conversation is gone. Their emotional distance feels like a chasm. The air is still as Jonathan flips through Cairo's assignment. The room is quiet, but the tension between teacher and student speaks volumes. Jonathan's eyes scan the page, and something shifts in him. This isn't just another paper. There's something in Cairo's writing that pulls him in. He's impressed, but also unnerved. Across the room, Cairo is watching him again. Her gaze is intense, more focused than before. She knows he's reading something important, and she's waiting for his reaction. There's a charged energy between them, silent but palpable. Jonathan looks up from the paper, his face betraying his admiration for her work, but also a growing fascination with the girl who wrote it. The scene at the dinner table feels colder now, more strained. Jonathan and Beatrice sit in the same spots, but the tension is thicker. Beatrice's jealousy has begun to seep in, her insecurities now closer to the surface. Winnie, now a waitress, walks up to take their order, unknowingly stepping into the growing friction between husband and wife. Beatrice's eyes linger on Winnie, sizing her up with suspicion, before turning back to Jonathan with a biting question. There's no humor in her tone, only sharpness. Jonathan, startled, quickly denies anything inappropriate, but Beatrix doesn't buy it. The scene feels like a slow unraveling of their marriage, with every word adding fuel to the fire. The classroom is alive with low chatter, but Jonathan's attention is entirely focused on Cairo as she walks in. Today, something is different. She's dressed in a way that immediately draws his eyes. It's a calculated move, and Jonathan is aware of it. His heartbeat quickens, but he tries to stay composed. Boris, standing nearby, notices the subtle tension between them and smirks knowingly. There's an unspoken understanding here. Cairo knows what she's doing, and Boris senses what Jonathan is trying to hide. The classroom, once a place of learning, has now become a stage for a dangerous game. Rain pours outside, setting the mood as Jonathan pulls up to Cairo's house, her forgotten phone in his hand. He's nervous, conflicted, but something deeper pulls him forward. The rain beats down harder as he steps to the door. When Cairo appears, her dress clinging to her in the rain, the tension that has been simmering between them finally comes to a boil. There's no more pretense now. No more hiding behind teacher-student roles. Their kiss is intense, driven by all the things they've been holding back. But the scene feels as fleeting as the rain, destined to complicate their lives even more. Jonathan sits in the small, dimly lit cabin, isolated from the world outside. The quiet is unsettling. He's printed out Cairo's story, and as he reads it, his face changes. First intrigue, then discomfort, and finally a kind of guilty excitement. Cairo's writing is raw, uninhibited, and far too personal. The characters, clearly inspired by them, bring the tension to a head. The story is too close for comfort, and yet it pulls him in. His moral boundaries blur, and for a moment, he gives in to his baser instincts. But even here, alone, he knows this is dangerous territory. Cairo stands before Jonathan, her expression unyielding. She's angry, hurt, and her words cut deeper with each passing moment. Jonathan tries to maintain authority, but he's unraveling. The power dynamic between them has shifted. Cairo is no longer the eager student, and Jonathan is no longer in control. When he critiques her story, dismissing it as flawed, Cairo's face contorts with fury. This isn't just about the writing anymore. This is personal. Jonathan's rejection is a rejection of her, and it stings. Cairo challenges him, daring him to fail her. Their roles are reversing, and Jonathan is losing the upper hand. Jonathan's home no longer feels like a refuge. He and Beatrix are at odds now, the distance between them deeper than ever. Beatrice's suspicions have reached a boiling point. She's not asking, she's demanding to know the truth. But Jonathan, trapped in his own web of lies, refuses to admit what happened. His denial only fuels her anger, and the scene escalates quickly into a full-blown argument. They tear into each other, bringing up old wounds and new betrayals. Their marriage, once hanging by a thread, snaps. The air in the vice principal's office is thick with tension. Jonathan sits across from Cairo, both of them knowing that everything is about to come crashing down. Cairo's calm confession is chilling. She recounts their encounters with an eerie detachment, as if it's all just part of a story. Jonathan, on the other hand, squirms in his seat, hesitating at every question. His guilt is clear, and the vice principal can see right through him. The verdict is swift. Jonathan is suspended. As Jonathan leaves, the weight of his decisions crashes down on him. Jonathan's house feels cold and empty now. Beatrice isn't just suspicious. She's ready to leave. The argument from before has escalated into a breaking point. Beatrix announces she's filing for divorce, her voice final. Jonathan's silence speaks volumes. There's nothing left to salvage, and he knows it. His career is in ruins, and now his marriage is crumbling. The world he built for himself is gone. Cairo and Winnie sit together, the air thick with triumph. Cairo's expression is smug, almost victorious. She's done it. She's brought Jonathan to his knees. He's lost his job, his marriage, his reputation. Winnie, though slightly shocked by Cairo's ruthlessness, smiles too. Cairo's cold declaration of victory echoes in the room. There's no remorse, only satisfaction. As the scene closes, you can't help but wonder, was this her plan all along?